How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just want to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark from tonight, which is August 30th, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was John Silver versus Serpentico. That was a great match, but the ending to it, John Silver went over with the Spin Doctor. Match 2, it was Diamante versus Charlotte Renegade. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Diamante went over with the Code Red. Match 3, it was Angelo Parker versus Gus De La Vega. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Angelo Parker went over with the elevated DDT. Now, after the match, Matt Menard threw Gus De La Vega out of the ring, and the Jericho Appreciation Society, which are Matt Menard and Angelo Parker, celebrated Angelo Parker's victory and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 4, it was Kiera Hogan versus Milo. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Kiera Hogan went over with the roundhouse kick. Match 5, it was the Trust Busters, which are Ari Daivari, Slim J, and Parker Boudreaux versus Logan Cruz, Tyshawn Perez, and Hermano. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, the Trust Busters went over cause Parker Boudreaux pinned Logan Cruz with the side suplex. Match 6, it was Julia Hart versus Vicky Dreamboat. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Julia Hart went over with the modified Rings of Saturn. Match 7, it was Kayla Rossi versus Vipress. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Kayla Rossi went over with the standing moonsault. Match 8, it was the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison versus Rosario Grillo and Dean Alexander. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, the Varsity Blondes went over because Griff Garrison pinned Rosario Grillo with the dropkick spinebuster combination from Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. Match 9, it was Dante Martin versus A.R. Fox. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Dante Martin went over with the nosedive. Match 10, it was Brock Anderson versus Tyson Maddox. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Brock Anderson went over with the spinebuster. Match 11, it was the Workhorsemen, which are J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry versus Oliver Sawyer and Manny Lowe. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, the Workhorsemen went over cause J.D. Drake pinned Oliver Sawyer with the diving moonsault. Now, after the match, Tony Schiavone interviewed the Workhorsemen, which are J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up about the Workhorsemen looking impressive in their match and everything, and Tony Schiavone asked J.D. Drake what his status was with the Wingmen going forward. J.D. Drake was saying, "Well, Tony, I love the Wingmen, I love Peter, I love Ryan, and I love Cesar. But one day, and one moment, I thought to myself, it's time to move on. Because I called my brother, Anthony Henry, who is the best professional wrestler in the world, and I had to do what I had to do. And this is what we're going to do. And everything. And then Anthony Henry was saying, JD, go have fun with the wingmen. But I was sick and tired of seeing you being taken as a joke. What you seen here, ladies and gentlemen, was the real J.D. Drake. And J.D. Drake and everything. And J.D. Drake was saying, we are the workhorsemen, and we are going to kick anybody's ass that gets in our way and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 12, it was Layla Gray versus Renee Michelle. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Layla Gray went over with the sit-out facebuster, and match 13, which was the main event, it was Roosh versus Blake Christian. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Roosh went over with the bull's horns. That was match 13 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides the matches, Lexi Nair interviewed the Jericho Appreciation Society, which are Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. Well, Lexi Nair brought up about Angelo Parker picking up a quick victory against Gus De La Vega and everything, and Angelo Parker said, well, Lexi, guess how long it took me to beat Gus De La Vega? And how long did it take Hook to beat Zach Clayton? Matt Menard said, I'll guess, Angelo. Matt Menard said, I'll guess, Cool Hand. It took Cool Hand 17 seconds. Yeah, excuse me. It took Cool Hand 17 seconds to beat Gus De La Vega. And it took Hook 27 seconds to beat Zach Clayton. And everything. And then Angelo Parker said, you heard it. It took me 17 seconds. And Hook, it took you 27 seconds. And everything. And then Matt Menard and Angelo Parker were talking about stealing Hook's hair gel from his dressing room and talked about stealing the FTW title from him and everything. And Angelo Parker and Matt Menard called out Hook and everything as well. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Taz and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. The referees for the event were Mike Posey, Paul Turner, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Mike Posey refereed the match between John Silver versus Serpentico. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Diamante versus Charlotte Renegade. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Angelo Parker versus Gus De La Vega. Mike Posey refereed the match between Kiera Hogan versus Milo. Paul Turner refereed the match between the Trustbusters versus Logan Cruz, Tyshawn Perez, and Hermano. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Julia Hart versus Vicky Dreamboat. Paul Turner refereed the match between Kayla Rossi versus Vipress. Mike Posey refereed the match between the Varsity Blondes versus Rosario Grillo and Dean Alexander. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Dante Martin versus A.R. Fox. Mike Posey refereed the match between Brock Anderson versus Tyson Maddox. Stephon Smith refereed the match between the Workhorsemen versus Oliver Sawyer and Manny Lowe. Paul Turner refereed the match between Layla Gray versus Renee Michelle. And Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Roosh versus Blake Christian. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, excuse me. And now the match card that's been announced for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. It's going to be Jake Hager versus Bryan Danielson. The Elite, which are Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, versus the United Empire, which are Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis, in an AEW Trios Titles semifinal match. And Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Tony Storm. And Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida and Tony Storm. Those are the matches that have been announced so far. Now, besides the matches that have been announced so far, Jon Moxley will be appearing live. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite tomorrow night looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark from tonight, which is August 30th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.